When Ming returned to the hospital, he took a deep breath and opened the door to Zuri's room, prepared to face her parents again. Inside, he found only Mr. Ahadi sitting on the sofa. Zuri and her mom went for a walk. Mr. Ahadi said calmly, "Sit, let's talk." Ming nodded and lowered himself into a chair, nervous. "How do you feel about my daughter?" Mr. Ahadi asked directly. Ming paused, then answered, "I love her more than my own life, and I want to spend the rest of my life making her happy." Mr. Ahadi leaned forward, eyes fixed on him. "What if you don't have that long together?" Ming exhaled, then said, "We will. But if we don't, I'll make sure the time we have together is beautiful and unforgettable." Mr. Ahadi nodded slowly, then said, "I'll be donating the stem cells for Zuri." Ming's head snapped up. "But you haven't done the match test yet." "I did it the last time she was sick," Mr. Ahadi explained. "I thought that if neither my wife nor I were a match, at least we'd have a head start finding someone in case something like this ever happened. And here we are. Zuri doesn't know yet, but I'll tell her tomorrow." "Why are you telling me this, sir?" Ming asked. Mr. Ahadi sighed. "Because even though I believe there will be no complications, if something goes wrong with my health after, I need you to promise that you'll take care of Zuri and her mom." Ming's eyes widened. "Does that mean you approve? Answer the question first." Mr. Ahadi cut in firmly. "Yes," Ming said immediately. "Of course, I promise. But I'm sure you'll be fine. Dad." Mr. Ahadi scoffed, amused. "Wait until you're married before you call me that." "Okay, Dad." Ming grinned, and Mr. Ahadi couldn't help but smile back. A few minutes later, Zuri and Mrs. Ahadi returned, puzzled to find them both smiling. Her parents eventually went to Zuri's apartment to rest from their long flight. They agreed to take turns with Ming, staying overnight with Zuri. The next morning, Mr. Ahadi shared the news about the stem cell donation with Zuri. She had already suspected it for years, and, given yesterday's conversation, she was ready. The doctors ran another match test as standard procedure, and it came back positive. Mr. Ahadi was given a preparation plan to optimize his health for the transplant. Zuri's care plan was also adjusted to prepare her for conditioning therapy, which would put her in her weakest and most vulnerable state, but was necessary to accommodate the new stem cells. Over the preparatory weeks, Zuri could feel Ming's increasing worry whenever they were together, though he masked it well, doing everything he could to lift her spirits. One afternoon, when they were alone, Zuri told him softly, "Ming, let's get married." Ming froze. He understood that she was afraid to leave with regrets, but he was even more terrified that she was starting to let go. He took her hand and said desperately, "Zuri, we'll get married once you get better. Then we can have a huge wedding, anywhere you want." She shook her head, eyes glistening. "Let's do it now, before I start conditioning therapy. We can just register it and have a small ceremony here. Please." Ming nodded, his heart aching. A few days later, they were married in the hospital, with Zuri wearing a simple white dress, and Mr. Ahadi as the officiant. A small group of witnesses were present: Zuri's mom, Ming's father, Mr. Wang, Wei, Dr. Yang, and a few of Zuri's other colleagues. They all left shortly after to give them time alone. That night, as Zuri lay next to Ming, she whispered, "Ming, if I don't get better after all this, I just want you to know that meeting you has been the best thing that ever happened to me." Choking back tears, Ming said, "You'll be fine, my love, and meeting you is the best thing that ever happened to me too." He held her close as she drifted to sleep. 2 days later, Zuri was moved to the BMT or bone marrow transplant unit, where she began conditioning therapy. Due to the high dose of chemo used, her immune system was basically non-existent, so her new room was kept very sterile, and the protocol regarding who could visit her and for how long was very strict. Her parents were with her during the day, but since only one family member was allowed at night, they let Ming have that chance. By now, Ming had stepped down entirely from his role in the company. To his surprise, his father supported the decision. The day of the transplant arrived. Mr. Ahadi was taken into the donation room, and hours later, Zuri was injected with the stem cells. Mr. Ahadi only suffered slight discomfort and recovered over the next few days under the watchful care of his wife and Ming. Zuri, meanwhile, was monitored closely in the BMT unit. Over the next 2 weeks, tests confirmed successful engraftment of the new stem cells. Soon, she was able to eat, take her medicine, and move around with minimal help. Ming started to feel a sense of hope, but remained on edge. Although Zuri's parents advised him to take care of himself too, he often forgot to eat, and some nights, worry kept him from sleeping. Though his legs were almost completely healed, the continuous neglect of his health pushed him to the brink of a mental and physical breakdown. One day, Ming was on his way to Zuri's room with some daily supplies when his vision suddenly turned blurry and he lost consciousness. He woke up in a hospital bed, weak and disoriented. Beside him, he heard a nurse say to another nurse, "The patient in 305 passed away. We'll need to have the room cleared." Ming's eyes flew open. What did you say?" he asked hoarsely. The nurses were startled. "Sir, you need to lie down," they tried to say, but Ming had already yanked the IV from his arm. He stumbled down the hallway toward the BMT unit, his limbs heavy, his head spinning. He collapsed in the hallway, heart pounding. 305. That was Zuri's room. She had been fine before he left. What happened? How long had he been unconscious? "Ming?" a voice called. It was Mrs. Ahadi. "What are you doing here, son? You should be resting. You fainted from exhaustion a few hours ago. Don't scare us like that." Ming blinked. "A few hours? Zuri, is she?" "She's fine," Mrs. Ahadi said gently. Ming released a breath. "But the nurses said the patient in 305 passed away." Mrs. Ahadi's gaze softened. "That was Zuri's former room, dear, before the transplant." Relief washed over Ming as his mind cleared. He buried his face in his hands, trembling. "I need to see her," he croaked, getting up. Mrs. Ahadi turned to the nurses, who looked like they wanted to drag Ming back to his room. "5 minutes, please," she said, and they reluctantly agreed. When Ming entered the room, Zuri smiled at him affectionately. "Hi, honey. Are you feeling better now?" Without a word, Ming closed the gap between them and embraced her. Zuri returned the hug, but later gave him an earful about taking care of his health. That same day, the doctors told them that Zuri's blood count was high enough for her to be discharged by the end of the week. She would continue outpatient care at home, but would be monitored till they were sure the cancer was in complete remission. They were all overjoyed at this news. Ming arranged for Zuri's parents to stay in his apartment, while he and Zuri moved into her unit next door. Mr. Tang had invited them to the family home, but they wanted to be near Zuri, and Zuri wanted to be somewhere familiar. The months passed. Ming became Zuri's full-time caregiver. Her parents returned to the UK temporarily, to fly back as soon as their visas were renewed. One night, as Zuri lay nestled in Ming's arms, she asked, "Do you ever wonder what your life would be like if you hadn't met me? You wouldn't have had to go through all this pain." Ming thought briefly. Indeed, these past few months, he had shed more tears, felt more fear and heartache than he ever had before. But then he said, "I don't want to imagine my world without you in it. As long as I have you, it's all worth it." Zuri snuggled closer and kissed him softly. Ming deepened the kiss, pouring every ounce of love into that moment. The years passed. Zuri opened her eyes one morning, struggling to breathe. Tiny but strong hands were covering her nose. It was their 1-year-old son, Fei Tang. She sat up in bed with him in her arms and checked the time. It was just 3 a.m. The motion woke Ming. "What's wrong, honey?" he mumbled. She chuckled. "Your son was trying to smother me in my sleep again." Ming laughed. "I see. So he's my son when he's naughty, and ours when he's cute." Grabbing Fei from Zuri, he kissed his cheek, then said, "Fei, no one is allowed to hurt my wife, not even you." Fei, clueless, wailed in response. His diaper was soiled. Zuri tried to get up, but Ming stopped her. "Go to sleep. I've got it." It had already been 6 years since the transplant, and 5 years since she went into full remission. She had even started seeing patients again. But for Ming, every day was a gift he didn't dare take for granted. After cleaning Fei and feeding him, Ming rocked him to sleep and laid him next to Zuri. Then he sat quietly on the bed, watching them, his 2 miracles, his whole world in one frame. When Zuri woke up, Ming and Fei were gone. There was a note that said, "Meet me at this address. Wear something nice." Zuri chuckled. What was Ming up to this time? When she arrived there, she found a beautifully decorated banquet hall with dangling chandeliers, a red carpet, and soft music. At the end of the hall was Ming. "What's going on? Where's Fei?" she asked, approaching. Ming chuckled. "The little rascal's fine, sweetheart. I've wanted to do this for so long. We got married so hastily, and under the circumstances, you didn't care for a grand celebration, but I've never forgotten about it. You deserve a proper proposal and wedding." Every day, I'm thankful to be able to spend another moment with you. I promise to love and cherish you, come what may, for as long as I live." He got down on one knee and extended a ring. "Zuri Ahadi, will you spend the rest of your life with me?" Zuri laughed, teary-eyed. "Of course, honey." Ming stood, slipped the ring onto her finger, and kissed her tenderly. Friends and family suddenly emerged, cheering. Mr. Tang was holding Fei, and Zuri's parents were standing beside him. A month later, they celebrated their 6-year wedding anniversary and vow renewal in a grand wedding-style ceremony. That evening, the entire family, including Zuri's parents, Mr. Tang, Zuri, Ming, and Fei, had dinner together at the Tang family house. Laughter and joy filled the air. At night, as Zuri and Ming lay in bed, she said to him, "It all feels like a dream." He kissed her forehead. "I know, but it's real." Zuri then grinned mischievously. "Is this the part where we grow old and have as many kids as we want?" Ming laughed. "I guess it is," he said, pulling her into a kiss. 50 years later, Zuri, now advanced in years, lay in her bed. Ming sat beside her, holding her hand. She could feel her strength slowly dissipating. Their children, Fei and Yulan, and their grandchildren surrounded them. Although they were weeping, they sang her favorite songs to her and shared many memories from their childhoods. Then, Zuri asked for a moment alone with Ming. Tears welled in his dim eyes. Though this moment was inevitable, he still couldn't bear the thought of being separated from her. But this was better than him leaving first. She would not be left alone. Zuri spoke with great effort. "We did it, darling. We grew old together." Ming nodded. "Thank you for giving me a home, sweetheart," he said, choking back tears. Kissing her cheek, he whispered, "You can rest now, my love. I won't be long." As Zuri's strength waned and her vision faded, she was glad Ming's face was the last thing she saw. Zuri was buried shortly after. Her tombstone read, "Here lies my love, my wife, mother of my children and my best friend." A week after Zuri was buried, Ming passed away peacefully in his sleep.